Hey guys, so December 2021, I bought a 2015 Yamaha Bolt C-Spec. So it's been about 5 months now, and after a few thousand miles on the bike, I wanted to give a review of it. So before I begin, I do want to share a little bit about the bike. So the Yamaha Bolt comes in at 540 pounds, and my bike is a 952cc. It is a cross between a cruiser and a cafe bike, and it's ideal for city cruising or commuting. So, my particular bike is the C-Spec model, which has handlebars that are lower and more forward than the upgraded and more upright position of the R-Spec model. So, first, I would like to talk about some of the things that I really like about this bike. So, it really does the trick for what I wanted and what I needed, which was I was looking for a more powerful and robust bike. And it also has some of the features that maybe other bike owners may take for granted, but I didn't have these things on all of the bikes that I had. So, for example, on this bike, I have a trip counter, and this is a feature that my Suzuki Boulevard S40 didn't have. So it's super convenient because now I can see how many miles I've gone on my bike, and it also includes a what is it called, a gas like it tells me when I'm running low on gas. So I also didn't have that on my Suzuki Boulevard S40. And I am not ashamed to admit that I've run out of gas, not once, but twice on my old bike. So I'm very happy that this one has a gas gauge. That's what it's called. I was thinking about it and I couldn't remember what it was called. So number one, it has a trip counter. Number two, it has a gas gauge. And number three, it has a belt. So my Suzuki Boulevard did have a belt, but my bike before that, which was a Honda Rebel, it had a chain. And I'll just be honest, I'm really lazy and I don't like cleaning my chain. So I'm really happy that it has a belt because it further supports my laziness. Now, some other features that I really like about this bike is that I'm able to sit flat footed on the bike. So I'm 5'6", and the bike also sits very low and heavy. And so for someone that is my height, it's really important that I feel very comfortable and very stable on it. So I feel very stable and I feel just very confident when I'm riding on the freeway or when I'm cornering because of the position of the bike. So that is something that I really like. And I also noticed that there was a big difference between the shifting and the engine sound between this bike and my Suzuki Boulevard. So shifting is very smooth on this bike, and I also really like the sound of the engine. It's sort of this like low, soft kind of purr noise in comparison to my Thumper that I used to have, which was my old bike. And in terms of maybe the things that I don't necessarily want to call them cons, because I think that every person has different tastes and preferences and wants and needs for a bike. So I really want to say these are some considerations that I think that people should consider. And again, this is for my own unique case based on what I am looking for. So, like I had mentioned earlier, the bike weighs 540 pounds wet, which is a big jump from my old bike, which was 381 pounds. So, although the bike sits low and I'm able to sit flat footed, there have been several occasions where I've almost lost my balance because the bike is just really heavy. But honestly, there's not really any solution to this. There's not really anything that you can do about it because, hey, the bike is over 900cc and anything that size is going to be heavy. So, like I said, there's not really anything you can do about it. I just think that it's important for you to be mindful and to consider this if you happen to be shorter or are concerned about the weight of a bike. So it's pretty heavy. And the other thing that I would mention is that if I could do a do-over, so knowing what I know now and learning what I've learned now, I would have bought the R-Spec model instead of the C-Spec model. And this is why. I personally am more used to a more upright riding position, and the C-Spec model sits a little too forward for me. So sometimes longer rides can get a little uncomfortable, But this isn't necessarily a deal breaker for me. So I did a lot of research and I was looking into getting some risers or replacing my handlebars. However, when I did go over to my mechanic, he actually suggested that I sell my C-Spec and instead just buy an R-Spec, because if he did the adjustments for me, the modifications for me, then pretty much I would just be turning my C-Spec into an R-Spec, so why not just sell the C-Spec and buy an R-Spec, because what I want already exists. So, like I said, this isn't a deal breaker for me. However, if I knew this before I bought my Bolt, I would have gone with the upgraded R-Spec model because of the more upright riding position. So, just to recap, overall, here's my overall review. I think that the Yamaha Bolt C-Spec is a solid bike. I chose it because it's reliable, it's comfortable to ride, and it honestly was a great upgrade option that fit within my budget. So if you're considering buying a Yamaha Bolt, I highly suggest looking at the R-Spec model instead of the C-Spec model, and I hope that you really enjoy this bike as much as I have. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you guys later.